The 10 most dangerous prisoners inside Angola Prison. The count was wrong. 3:42 a.m. Death Row, Camp F, Angola State Penitentiary, Louisiana. Officer James Thibodeau stood at the end of Tier 3, staring at his clipboard. 63 inmates. The system showed 64. Stay with this story. What happens next almost didn't get documented. Angola wasn't like other prisons. 18,000 acres of former plantation land. Maximum security. Home to Louisiana's execution chamber. And the men inside weren't serving time. They were dying here. Thibodeau had worked Angola for 12 years. He knew the rhythm, the sounds, the silence that came before trouble. Tonight, something was off. He keyed his radio. Control, I need verification on Tier 3 count. Static, then a voice. Count shows 64 active. What's your physical? 63. Silence on the other end. In a place like Angola, one missing inmate meant lockdown. Sirens, dogs, helicopters. But the system didn't lie. Thibodeau walked the tier again. Cell by cell. Each door locked. Each inmate accounted for. Until he reached cell 47. Empty. The door was closed. Locked from the outside. But no one was inside. He checked his roster. Cell 47, Marcus Labelle. Death Row. Convicted of killing 3 people during a 1998 armed robbery. Scheduled for execution in 6 weeks. Thibodeau's hands went cold. He radioed again. I need supervision to Tier 3 immediately. Cell 47 is empty. The response came fast. Officer, cell 47 shows occupied. Inmate accounted for during 2 a.m. check. I'm looking at an empty cell. Stand by. 2 minutes later, Lieutenant Hayes arrived with 3 officers. They surrounded cell 47. Hayes looked through the observation window. His face changed. Open it. The cell door slid open with a mechanical grind. Inside was a bed, a toilet, a sink. No inmate. But on the wall, written in what looked like dried soap, were 10 names. Thibodeau recognized every one. They were all death row inmates. All housed in Camp F. All scheduled for execution within the next 8 months. Hayes stepped inside, studying the list. Where's Labelle? I don't know. When was the last confirmed visual? Thibodeau checked his log. 2 a.m. check. Officer Doucet signed off on it. Hayes pulled out his radio. Get me Doucet. Now. While they waited, Thibodeau noticed something else. Next to each name on the wall was a number. 1 through 10. Marcus Labelle's name was number 3. Hayes saw it too. What the hell is this? Before anyone could answer, the radio crackled. Lieutenant, Doucet didn't show for end of shift. His truck's still in the lot. Hayes's jaw tightened. Find him. Thibodeau stared at the list. 10 names. 10 of the most dangerous men in Louisiana. All condemned to die. All housed in the same unit. Sir, Thibodeau said quietly. What if this isn't about one missing inmate? Hayes turned. What are you saying? What if all 10 are planning something? The lieutenant's expression darkened. These men don't communicate. They're in solitary 23 hours a day. They can't coordinate. Then how did this get on the wall? No answer. Hayes ordered a full facility lockdown. Every cell checked. Every inmate accounted for. It took 90 minutes. When the reports came back, every inmate was present, including Marcus Labelle. He was in cell 47, right where he was supposed to be, sleeping. Thibodeau stood outside the cell, watching Labelle through the window. The man hadn't moved. That's impossible, Thibodeau whispered. I checked this cell. It was empty. Hayes pulled him aside. You need rest, James. You've been on doubles all week. I know what I saw. The cameras will tell us what happened. They reviewed the footage. 2 a.m. Officer Doucet walks Tier 3. Checks cell 47. Marcus Labelle visible on his bunk. 2:30 a.m. No activity. 3 a.m. No activity. 3:42 a.m. Thibodeau enters the tier. The footage showed him walking to cell 47, standing outside, looking inside, then radioing for help. But on camera, Marcus Labelle never left his bunk. Hayes froze the frame. "You see? He's right there." Thibodeau leaned closer to the screen. Labelle was there. But something was wrong. "Run it back." Slow motion. Hayes complied. They watched again. Labelle on the bunk. Motionless. Too motionless. Thibodeau pointed. "He's not breathing." Hayes squinted. "What?" "Watch his chest. No movement. For 3 hours." They watched the timestamp. 2 a.m. to 3:42 a.m. Marcus Labelle didn't move once. Didn't shift position. Didn't breathe. Hayes grabbed his radio. "I want cell 47 opened. Full tactical. Now." 6 officers in riot gear assembled outside the cell. They gave the command. Marcus Labelle didn't respond. The door opened. Officers rushed in. One of them reached the bunk, pulled back the blanket, and stopped. "Lieutenant, you need to see this." Hayes stepped inside. On the bunk was a body, but it wasn't Marcus Labelle. It was Officer Doucet, dressed in an inmate jumpsuit, positioned to look like he was sleeping, a plastic bag over his head. He'd been dead for hours. Hayes staggered back. "Where's Labelle?" No one answered. Thibodeau looked at the wall. The list of 10 names. The numbers beside them. And he understood. This wasn't a list of inmates. It was an order. A sequence. Number 3 was gone, which meant numbers 1 and 2 were already out. Hayes pulled the emergency alarm. The entire prison erupted in sirens. Lockdown. Full count. Every cell, every tier, every unit. Officers scrambled. Radios flooded with chatter. Thibodeau stood in cell 47, staring at Doucet's body. Then at the list. 10 names. 10 of the most violent men in Angola. Men with nothing to lose. Men who'd been planning this for months. Maybe years. He looked at Hayes. "How many are already gone?" The lieutenant didn't answer. But when they checked the logs, everything changed. 3 inmates were missing. But the system said everyone was accounted for. How death row became a hunting ground, and why no one saw it coming. The emergency count took 40 minutes. Every cell, every unit, every corner of Angola's 18,000 acres. When the final report came in, Lieutenant Hayes read it twice. Then a third time. All inmates accounted for. Officer Thibodeau stood in the command center, watching the chaos unfold on monitors. "That's impossible. We found Doucet in Labelle's cell." "Where's Labelle?" Hayes pulled up the digital roster. "According to this, Marcus Labelle is in cell 47. Present and accounted. We just pulled a dead officer out of that cell." "I know what we found." Hayes's voice was strained. "But the system shows everyone present." Thibodeau pointed at the screen. "Then the system is wrong." Warden Catherine Mills entered the room. 58 years old. 23 years at Angola. She'd seen riots, escapes, murders. But her expression now was something different. "Tell me what we know," she said. Hayes briefed her. The empty cell. The list of names. Doucet's body. Mills listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for 10 seconds. "Show me the list." They pulled up a photo taken in cell 47. 10 names on the wall. Mills studied each one. "These men don't interact. They're in administrative segregation. 23 hours a day in their cells." "Someone coordinated this," Thibodeau said. "How?" Mills turned to him. "They don't have contact. No phones. No mail that isn't screened. Every word they speak is monitored." "Then we missed something." Mills's jaw tightened. "Find Officer Doucet's logs. Every entry for the last 6 months." They pulled the records. Doucet had worked death row for 4 years. Perfect attendance. No disciplinary issues. But 3 months ago, something changed. His cell checks started taking longer. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 15. Hayes noticed it first. Why is he spending so much time on each tier? Thibodeau scanned the logs. He logged everything as routine. 15 minutes isn't routine. Mills leaned over the desk. Pull his personal file. The file showed standard employment history. Clean background check. Military service. Divorced. 2 kids. Then Thibodeau found it. A notation from 8 weeks ago. Doucet had requested a transfer off death row to general population. The request was denied. Why would he want off death row? Thibodeau asked. Mills didn't answer. She was staring at something else in the file. A financial disclosure form required for all corrections officers. Doucet had listed his income. Doucet's. He was drowning. $60,000 in credit card debt. Behind on child support. Truck payment overdue. Mills closed the file. He was compromised. The room went silent. You think he helped them? Hayes asked. I think someone got to him, offered money, and he made a choice. Thibodeau felt sick. How many did he let out? We don't know. But if that list is in order, then 3 are missing. Numbers 1, 2, and 3. Mills grabbed her radio. I want the names on that list identified. Now. It took 6 minutes. The names came back. Number 1, Raymond Reaper, Boudreau. Triple homicide. Death row since 2001. Number 2, Calvin Jessup. Killed 4 people in a carjacking spree. Death row since 2005. Number 3, Marcus Labelle. Armed robbery. 3 dead. Death row since 1999. Number 4, Gerald Tatum. Serial killer. 7 confirmed victims. Number 5, Vincent Clay. Contract killer. 11 murders. Numbers 6 to 10, similar profiles. All violent. All condemned. Mills stared at the list. These aren't random inmates. These are the worst we have. Why them? Thibodeau asked. Because they have nothing to lose. And everything to gain. Hayes pulled up live camera feeds of their cells. Every cell showed an inmate. Sleeping. Reading. Sitting. But Thibodeau had seen this before. Check their breathing. Hayes zoomed in on number 4's cell. Gerald Tatum. Lying on his bunk. Motionless. Zoom closer. The image sharpened. Tatum's chest didn't move. Hayes switched cameras. Number 5. Vincent Clay. Same thing. No movement. No breathing. Mills grabbed the radio. Tactical teams to death row. Check cells 4 through 10. Full entry protocol. The teams mobilized. Within minutes, the reports started coming in. Cell 44, Gerald Tatum. Dummy made from bedding and clothing. Cell empty. Cell 51, Vincent Clay. Same. Empty. Cell 62, Jerome Walsh. Number 6 empty. Cell 58, Carl Hammer Versert. Number 7 empty. One by one, the cells were opened. All empty. 7 inmates. 7 of the most dangerous men in Louisiana. Gone. Mills's face was pale. How long have they been out? Hayes checked the camera timestamps. At least 6 hours. Maybe more. 6 hours. Mills's voice was barely a whisper. They could be anywhere. Thibodeau looked at the map of Angola on the wall. 18,000 acres. Surrounded by swampland and the Mississippi River. They're not trying to escape, he said. Everyone turned. What? Mills asked. Think about it. These men are lifers. Death row. If they wanted to escape, they'd run. Get as far as possible. So what are they doing? Thibodeau pointed at the list. Numbers 8, 9, and 10 are still in their cells. Why leave them? No one had an answer. Then Hayes's radio crackled. Lieutenant, we have a situation in Camp D. Camp D, general population. 3,000 inmates. What kind of situation? 2 officers didn't respond to check-in. We're sending a team. Mills and Hayes exchanged looks. That's across the facility, Mills said. Half a mile from death row. Hayes radioed back. Status of the officers? Unknown. Last contact was 20 minutes ago. Mills grabbed her radio. Full facility lockdown. No one moves. Every unit sealed. But Thibodeau was thinking about something else. The order. Numbers 1 through 10. 7 were out. 3 were still in their cells. What if the list wasn't about who escaped? What if it was about targets? Warden, he said slowly. What if they're not leaving? What if they're hunting? Mills turned. Hunting who? Before he could answer, another radio call came in. Control, we found the officers from Camp D. Hayes keyed his mic. Status. A long pause. They're dead. Both of them. Throats cut. The command center went silent. Mills's hand shook as she raised her radio. Secure all staff. Full evacuation of non-essential personnel. But Thibodeau was staring at the map. Camp D was nowhere near death row, which meant the inmates weren't running randomly. They were moving with purpose, following a plan. Hayes pulled up personnel files. Who were the officers in Camp D? The names came back. Officer Marcus Labelle, 7 years at Angola. Officer Daniel Prudhomme. For years. Thibodeau didn't recognize them, but Mills did. Her face went white. What is it? Hayes asked. Mills pulled up another file. Labelle and Prudhomme both worked death row 2 years ago, before transferring to Camp D. So they were on duty the night Raymond Boudreau tried to kill himself. They stopped him, saved his life. Thibodeau felt ice in his stomach. Boudreau is number one. Mills nodded. He's been out the longest. And now 2 officers who kept him from dying are dead. Hayes pulled up more records. If that's the pattern, who else worked death row? They scanned the files. 17 officers had rotated through death row in the last 5 years. 9 were still at Angola, including Thibodeau. Mills looked at him. James, when did you work death row? His throat was dry. 3 years ago. For 8 months. Do you remember any of the inmates on that list? He thought back. Then his blood went cold. Gerald Tatum. Number 4. I was there during his intake. Did anything happen? He tried to attack me. I put him in restraints. He swore he'd kill me. The room was silent. Mills grabbed her radio. All officers who worked death row in the last 5 years, immediate protective custody. Now. But Thibodeau was staring at the list again. Numbers 1 through 7 were out. Hunting. Numbers 8, 9, and 10 were still in their cells. But, Warden, he said. What if the last 3 aren't prisoners? Mills turned. What? What if numbers 8, 9, and 10 are targets? Not inmates. Hayes pulled up the personnel files. Cross-referenced with anyone who'd worked death row. 3 names appeared. Officer Rachel Fontenot, currently assigned to Camp A. Sergeant Marcus Thibodeau, Command Center, and Lieutenant Paul Hayes. Hayes stared at his own name on the screen. They're coming for us, he whispered. Then every light in the command center went out. Emergency power failed. Backup generators didn't engage. In the darkness, Thibodeau heard it. A door opening. Footsteps. Close. Someone was inside the building. The hunters had become the hunted. And in the dark, no one could see who was already inside. This reveals the truth behind the list, and why death row was never the real prison. The darkness lasted 8 seconds. When the emergency lights flickered on, casting red shadows across the command center, Warden Mills was already moving. Weapons out. Lock the doors. Hayes drew his sidearm. Thibodeau did the same. But the footsteps had stopped. Mills counted heads. 12 people in the room. All staff. All accounted for. No one had entered. Hayes moved to the door. Checked the hallway. Empty. I heard someone, Thibodeau said. So did I. Mills pulled her radio. Security? Status on power failure? Static. She tried again. Anyone copy? Nothing. The radios were dead. Hayes checked his cell phone. No signal. Thibodeau checked his. They cut communications, Mills said. Which means they planned this. Hayes pointed at the monitors. Half were dark. The others showed static or frozen images. We're blind. Mills moved to the backup terminal. Manually rebooted the system. It took 90 seconds. When the cameras came back online, what they saw made everyone freeze. Death row camp. Every cell door was open. All 64 cells. Empty. Oh God, Hayes whispered. Mills cycled through other camera feeds. Camp D. Multiple fires burning in the courtyard. Camp A. Officers barricaded inside the control tower. Camp J. Inmates moving freely through corridors. This wasn't an escape. It was a takeover. Thibodeau stared at the screens. How many inmates are loose? Hayes checked the numbers. If death row is empty and 3 camps are compromised, at least 400. 400 of the most dangerous men in Louisiana, Mills said. With nowhere to go. Why haven't they tried to leave the facility? Thibodeau asked. No one answered. Because the truth was becoming clear. They didn't want to leave. Mills grabbed the landline phone. Still working. She dialed Louisiana State Police. This is Warden Catherine Mills, Angola State Penitentiary. We have a critical situation. Multiple inmates loose. Officers down. Request immediate tactical response. The dispatcher's voice was calm but urgent. How many inmates? At least 400. Possibly more. Warden, we'll mobilize every unit available. Be 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Mills hung up. We can't wait that long, Hayes said. Thibodeau was studying the camera feeds, trying to find patterns. Then he saw it. A group of inmates, moving through Camp D, led by a tall man with a shaved head. Raymond Reaper, Boudreau. Number 1. Behind him were 6 others. Thibodeau recognized their faces from the list. Calvin Jessup, Marcus Labelle, Gerald Tatum. The others, they weren't running, weren't rioting. They were moving with purpose, heading toward the administration building, where the command center was located. They're coming here, Thibodeau said. Mills saw it too. How long? Hayes checked the route. 5 minutes. Maybe less. We need to evacuate. To where? Hayes gestured at the screens. Every exit is compromised. We're surrounded. Mills made a decision. Then we defend this position. It's the most secure room in the facility. She was right. The command center was designed to withstand riots. Steel reinforced doors, reinforced walls, limited entry points. It was a fortress, but fortresses could become tombs. Thibodeau moved to the door. Check the lock. This won't hold them forever. It doesn't have to, Mills said. Just until state police arrive. Hayes pulled up a schematic of the building. There's one other exit. Maintenance tunnel. Leads to the outer perimeter. Can we reach it? We'd have to go through the main corridor. Past where they're coming from. Mills shook her head. Too risky. Then we wait, Thibodeau said. For 2 minutes, nothing happened. The cameras showed the group of inmates getting closer. They reached the administration building, entered through a side door that should have been locked. Someone had opened it from the inside. Mills's eyes widened. There's another officer helping them. Who? Hayes asked. Before anyone could answer, the camera feed inside the building went dark. They were in the blind spots now. Thibodeau could hear them. Footsteps in the hallway outside. Getting closer. Then they stopped. Right outside the command center door. Everyone in the room raised their weapons. Silence. Then a voice. Almost polite. Warden Mills. We need to talk. Raymond Boudreau. Mills didn't respond. I know you're listening, Boudreau continued. And I know you're scared. But I'm not here to hurt you. Then what do you want? Mills called out. Justice. The word hung in the air. You've had your trials, Mills said. You were convicted. Sentenced. By a system that was rigged from the start. Thibodeau glanced at Mills. She looked torn. What are you talking about? She asked. Officer Doucet didn't help us for money, Boudreau said. He helped us because he found something. Evidence that half the men on death row were framed. Mills's expression hardened. That's a lie. Is it? Ask yourself why he requested a transfer. Why he spent 15 minutes on each tier. He was documenting, taking photos, collecting proof. Hayes leaned close to Mills. Could it be true? No, she whispered, but her voice wavered. Boudreau continued. The DA who prosecuted most of us, Richard Comeau, he falsified evidence, coerced witnesses. We all had the same public defender, Martin Hebert. He was paid to lose our cases. Thibodeau felt cold. Martin Hebert. The same last name as one of the dead officers. Mills saw the realization on his face. Officer Marcus Labelle. Camp D. Martin Hebert's son, Boudreau said through the door. He knew what his father did. Doucet showed him the evidence. Marcus Labelle tried to bury it. So we buried him. The room was silent. You're murderers, Mills said. Whatever evidence you claim to have doesn't justify killing officers. They killed us first. Slowly. Year by year. In cages. For crimes half of us didn't commit. Hayes pulled up personnel files. Cross-referenced the names. Martin Labelle, Public Defender, 1998 to 2007. Disbarred 2008 for misconduct. Richard Camo, District Attorney, 1995 to 2010. Retired under investigation for prosecutorial misconduct. Both men had been involved in every case on the list. All 10 inmates. Thibodeau looked at Mills. What if he's telling the truth? Even if he is, this isn't the way. Warden, Boudreau said. We're not asking for freedom. We're asking for a retrial. Real lawyers. Real evidence. Let the truth come out. You've killed 3 officers. There's no walking this back. Then we have nothing to lose. The pause. There are 12 of you in that room, Boudreau said. And 400 of us out here. We can wait for state police. Let them storm the building. A lot of people will die. What's your alternative? You have access to the media, to lawyers, to people who can investigate. Call them. Put this on record. If you do that, we'll stand down. Mills looked at Hayes. Then Thibodeau. You believe him? She asked quietly. Hayes pulled up more files. Warden, look at this. Camo's cases. 47 convictions. 28 were appealed. 19 were overturned for misconduct. These 10 weren't. Because they're on death row. No one fights for them. Mills closed her eyes. Thibodeau understood her position. She was responsible for this facility, for the safety of staff and inmates, but she was also responsible for justice. Make the call, Thibodeau said. Mills opened her eyes. If I do this and they're lying, then we tried, Hayes said. But if they're telling the truth and we do nothing. Mills picked up the phone. Dialed. This is Warden Catherine Mills at Angola State Penitentiary. I need to speak with the Attorney General. And I need every media outlet you can reach. She waited. Then, yes. I'm calling about potential wrongful convictions on death row. I need investigators, lawyers, and I need them now. Outside the door, Boudreau spoke again. Thank you, Warden. I'm doing this for the truth, Mills said. Not for you. That's all we ever wanted. State police arrived 23 minutes later. By then, every inmate had returned to their cells. Voluntarily, the media arrived an hour after that. The investigation took 6 months. What they found was damning. Richard Camo had falsified evidence in 32 cases, including all 10 men on the list. Martin Labelle had deliberately sabotaged defenses, took bribes to ensure convictions. 7 of the 10 death row inmates were granted retrials. 4 were exonerated completely. 3 remained guilty but with reduced sentences. Raymond Boudreau was one of the exonerated, but he still faced charges for Officer Doucet's death. At his hearing, he said something that stayed with Thibodeau. I spent 23 years in a cage for something I didn't do. I became the monster they said I was. Not because I wanted to, because that's what survival required. Officer Doucet's family released his documentation posthumously. Over 300 photos, statements, evidence he'd collected. He'd been trying to expose the truth. It got him killed, but it also freed 7 innocent men. Warden Catherine Mills retired 6 months after the incident. Lieutenant Paul Hayes transferred to another facility. Officer James Thibodeau stayed. Because someone had to remember what happened. Someone had to make sure it didn't happen again. But late at night when he walked death row, he thought about that list. 10 names. 10 men who'd lost everything. 3 of whom were never guilty at all. And he wondered how many others were still in cages. Waiting. Planning. Becoming the monsters the system created. Angola is still the largest maximum security prison in America. It still houses death row. It still executes inmates, but now every case is reviewed, every conviction scrutinized, because what happened that night proved something terrifying. The most dangerous prisoners aren't always the ones in cells. Sometimes they're the ones who put them there. This could happen again, anywhere, in any prison, where justice is assumed, but never verified. If this story shook you, the next one will be worse. Because the system that failed at Angola exists everywhere. And somewhere tonight, an innocent man is counting down to execution, while the guilty walk free.